The grand doors of the Crescent Bell Hotel parted as I stepped inside, greeted by warm golden light and the soft hum of piano music drifting through the air. A breathtaking chandelier hung high above the entrance, its shimmering crystals casting tiny rainbows across the glossy marble floor. Men in tuxedos and women in elegant, sequin-covered gowns chatted and laughed like they belonged in a magazine spread. I paused, soaking it all in, and yet, deep in my chest, something twisted. This was supposed to be my celebration, but already I could feel I wasn't truly welcome. Today was my 31st birthday. A week ago, my family had reached out after years of silence. It's a milestone, they had said. Let's go all out and make it unforgettable. I'd been hesitant. Of course, we hadn't been close in years. But part of me had hoped this gathering would be a way to rebuild old bridges. Maybe things would feel warm again. I was wrong. At the check-in desk, a hotel staff member looked me over like I was lost. "Are you on the guest list?" he asked, his tone polite but dismissive. I replied, confident in my voice, "Yes, Eliza Langford." He frowned and tapped something into the tablet in front of him. One moment, miss." I stood awkwardly as he stepped away, doubt creeping in like a cold draft. That's when I saw them, Margaret, my mother, and my older sister Vivian sweeping into the lobby like movie stars. They wore stunning dresses and walked with the kind of effortless poise only wealth and practice could buy. But as their eyes landed on me, I noticed the shift. Their smiles dimmed just slightly, like they'd bitten into something sour. "Oh, Eliza." "You made it," my mother said smoothly. "It's been a while," Vivian added, her voice flat with a touch of surprise, like she hadn't really expected me to show up. Then came the blow. "There isn't a seat for you, Eliza," my mother said, still smiling with that cool, unreadable expression. "What?" I asked, blinking, sure I'd misunderstood. "We finalized the seating weeks ago," she said casually. "There's just no space left. Why don't you check out that little pub down the street? Might be more your scene anyway." I stood there frozen, struggling to catch up to what was happening. A pub? Was this some kind of sick joke? Vivian glanced at me, then shrugged. "You work in one, right? You're probably more comfortable in that kind of place." Her voice dripped with condescension. I tried to respond, but no words came. To them, I wasn't a sister or a daughter. I was someone beneath them, just the girl who poured drinks and didn't belong in a ballroom. "Don't take it personally, darling," my mother said with a soft, almost pitying tone. "Some places just suit certain people better." Her words sliced through me sharper than any insult. My eyes burned, a mixture of sorrow and humiliation bubbling up inside me. Still, I forced a smile. "I understand. Sorry to bother you." I turned and walked away, leaving them behind without glancing back. A gust of winter wind kissed my cheeks as I stepped outside. The golden glow of the party faded behind me as I moved farther into the darkness. Memories surfaced like ghosts in the cold. I'd never been enough for my mother, not as polished, not as ambitious, not as perfect as Vivian. From the time we were little, Vivian had been their golden girl, brilliant, confident, praised for every little thing. I was the quiet one, the odd one. I loved to bake. That was my joy. But to my mother, it was a childish hobby, not a future. Only my father had believed in me. He used to beam with pride whenever I brought him a new creation, always saying, "One day, the world will know your cakes." But when I was 12, he passed away. There was no time to mourn me. Mother remarried quickly, and my new stepfather had little interest in me. He adored Vivian, of course, her grades, her beauty. I faded into the background. Still, I kept trying. I worked hard, dreaming that one day they'd see me, really see me. But that moment never came. After graduating from vocational school, I left. I cut ties and moved far away to Provence, in the south of France. It was terrifying at first. I didn't speak French well, and I didn't know anyone, but I was determined to master the art of pastry. I trained under tough chefs, learned through trial and error, and refused to give up even when I felt completely out of place. Eventually, I found my rhythm. Confidence grew where fear had once lived, and when I was ready, I took the leap and opened my own bakery. I called it ButterBloom. At first, it was just me baking before sunrise, struggling to pay rent, watching days pass with barely enough customers, but I kept going. I believed in what I was creating. Slowly, something magical happened. People started to come. Then more. Word spread. Locals brought their friends. Tourists added us to their travel lists. Food bloggers began writing about ButterBloom's pastries, flaky, buttery, filled with delicate cream and handmade jams. Eventually, even foodies from other countries started visiting just to try them. Every time someone smiled after taking a bite, I felt it. This was what I was meant to do. All the pain, the doubt, the loneliness, it had led to this. My dream, alive and thriving. But my family? They still thought I worked in a pub. Those small moments, when someone takes a bite of one of my pastries and their face lights up, those are what bring me real happiness. No matter how rough things get, I've come to understand one truth. As long as I believe in myself, I can keep going. And I have. Still, to my family, I'm nothing more than a girl behind a bar. My sister Vivian married Charles, a high-profile investment banker. He manages portfolios, closes deals worth millions, and is well known in elite circles. Because of him, Vivian gets access to all the fancy parties and luxury restaurants she used to dream about. But the life she enjoys wasn't earned, it was gifted by Charles' success. My parents benefited from that too. Thanks to him, they moved into an upscale neighborhood, jetted off on vacations, and shopped like money would never run out. I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. That was enough. I'd seen clearly now, people like them don't change just because you do. Right then and there, I made a decision. I would never reach out to them again. I didn't need their validation to know who I was. There were people in my life who genuinely appreciated me, people who didn't care where I came from, only who I was. I tilted my head back and stared up at the stars. The chill in the air nipped at my skin, but it also helped cool the anger still simmering in my chest. My life wasn't about them anymore. It was mine. With that thought anchoring me, I turned and headed home. My phone buzzed suddenly in my coat pocket. Daniel, my shop manager, had sent me a message. "Eliza, it's urgent. Please come to the bakery right away." I froze. My heart skipped. Something must have gone wrong. "What's going on, Daniel?" I messaged back. "I'll explain when you get here. Just hurry." The urgency in his words made my stomach twist. I spun on my heel and sprinted toward ButterBloom. When I arrived, the street outside was quiet and dimly lit. The bakery looked closed, its windows dark. I pushed open the door cautiously. "Daniel, are you here?" I called out, nerves prickling through me. Then suddenly, click, the lights burst on. "Happy birthday, Eliza." Everyone cheered. I froze. Around me were the smiling faces of my team, clapping and laughing, confetti fluttering through the air. My eyes widened. On the counter sat a beautiful cake, decorated with the same delicate artistry we used on customer orders. Only this one was for me. They crowded around, singing and tossing party poppers. "Thank you for everything you do," someone said warmly. "This is just a small way of showing how much we appreciate you." My chest tightened with emotion. Even though my own family hadn't cared to celebrate me, these people did. Tears threatened to fall, but I held them back and smiled instead. "Thank you, really," I whispered. "You don't know what this means to me." I looked at Daniel. "But how did you know I was coming back?" He scratched his head, grinning sheepishly. "Well, we actually had a surprise cake sent to that hotel," he said. "But when they told us you'd already left, we decided to throw our own party here instead." A soft laugh escaped me. Warmth spread through my chest, chasing away the chill from earlier. "I'm so grateful to have you all in my life," I said again. Daniel clapped his hands. "All right, everyone, let's eat cake." Cheers filled the shop, and right then, something clicked. This love, this laughter, this shared joy, this was what family felt like. Now, people know me as a skilled pastry chef and owner of ButterBloom, a bakery that's grown into 3 locations across the city. Our desserts are known for their creativity and comfort, the kind of flavors that stay with you long after the last bite. We've become so popular, people book tables months in advance, sometimes up to 4. Even professors from Larchmont University and wealthy foodies come regularly. Our little shop that once struggled is now featured in travel blogs and lifestyle magazines. But despite everything, I never told my family. I kept my success to myself. We barely spoke, and I didn't care to change that. They never believed in my dream of becoming a pastry chef. Back when I chose culinary school after middle school, they were embarrassed. They wanted something practical, a real job, a degree with prestige. They never tried to understand why baking mattered to me. I spent years feeling alone because of that. I walked a path they didn't respect, and I walked it without them. Even now, after all the late nights, early mornings, and battles to build something from scratch, I never reached out to say, "Look what I've done." To me, ButterBloom wasn't just a bakery. It was proof. Proof that I didn't need anyone's permission to follow my heart. That I could build something beautiful and lasting on my own terms. That I could be seen, not because I forced anyone to look, but because I earned it. That thought kept me grounded. About 3 months after my birthday, something happened that would change everything. An international pastry competition was on the horizon. Renowned chefs from all over the world were gathering to showcase their finest skills. I led our team from ButterBloom, pouring my entire soul into the preparation. Every detail mattered: flavor, design, innovation. I pushed harder than ever before, knowing this was our chance to shine on a global stage. And then it happened. When they announced that we had taken first place, I felt the weight of years lift from my shoulders. Tears welled in my eyes and spilled freely. It wasn't just a trophy, it was validation. Our victory spread quickly, not only among culinary circles, but across mainstream media. Suddenly, ButterBloom wasn't just a beloved bakery, it was a phenomenon. One day, a producer from a popular food television show reached out. They wanted to feature us in an upcoming segment. Normally, I preferred to stay behind the scenes. I liked the quiet pride of watching others enjoy our work. But something inside nudged me to say yes. Maybe it was time to share the story, not just the sweets. What I didn't know was how much that decision would change, especially with my family. When the broadcast day arrived, my staff and I huddled in the shop, nervous and excited. As the show began, there I was on screen, a bit awkward but sincere, talking about the journey, the setbacks, the love I poured into each creation. The cameras captured the magic of our kitchen, my team working with focus and joy, ovens glowing, pastries lined up like little works of art. Every time ButterBloom appeared, cheers erupted in the room. We exchanged glances of pride, overwhelmed by how far we'd come. The host wrapped up the segment by calling ButterBloom a must-visit destination for food lovers around the world. I felt warmth bloom in my chest, gratitude flooding in. And then my phone rang. I glanced down. Mom flashed across the screen. I blinked, stunned. My heart picked up speed as I hesitantly answered. "Eliza!" "What on earth is going on?" came my mother Margaret's voice, filled with disbelief. "I just saw the television." "That bakery? ButterBloom, is that yours?" I took a slow breath, my tone calm and steady. "Yes, Mom. Am the owner." "You?" But she paused. "I thought you were working in a pub this whole time." "No," I said gently. "I never was. I've been running ButterBloom. It's been my dream since I was young to be a pastry chef." There was silence on the line. Then she said, "Why didn't you ever tell us?" A bitter smile tugged at my lips. "Because you and Vivienne always laughed at my dream. You said it was just a phase, that I needed a real job, something secure." She didn't deny it. Instead, I heard her sigh softly. "I see." There was another pause. Then her voice changed lighter, more excited. "Well, your shop is really something, isn't it? Fully booked for months. On television? You should use this moment. Promote it more. Let's organize a celebration, a party for your success. I can invite people, Vivienne's friends. My network, it'll all be perfect." I frowned. That wasn't what I wanted at all. Whenever my mother mentioned people she knew, she meant those obsessed with titles, appearances, and social leverage. Not people who truly cared. This wasn't about celebrating me. It was about showing me off. I felt disappointment surge through me. I didn't want any of it. Without saying another word, I ended the call. Her plans had nothing to do with who I was. Still, a few weeks later, I found myself standing stiffly in the middle of a glittering ballroom, surrounded by guests I didn't recognize. My mother had gone ahead with her idea, a lavish event she titled Eliza's Success Celebration. But it didn't feel like mine. It felt staged. Most of the attendees were socialites, business contacts, or acquaintances of Vivienne. They hovered near the catering tables, exchanging shallow compliments and sizing each other up. I stood off to the side, feeling more like an exhibit than a person. My mother approached with a glass of champagne. "Smile, Eliza," she whispered, her lips not quite reaching her eyes. "It's your big night." But I could tell this wasn't pride in her daughter's achievement. It was an opportunity for her to brag. I forced a smile and nodded, playing along. What else could I do? Then, as I tried to blend into the corner, a tall man with light blonde hair approached me. He wore a navy suit and had a curious look in his eyes. "Hi," he said, offering his hand. "I'm Charles Vivienne's husband." I paused for a beat, surprised. So this was the mysterious man who had elevated Vivienne's status all these years. "Nice to meet you," I replied, shaking his hand politely. He didn't let go right away. "Actually, I only learned about you recently. That caught me off guard." "I saw the feature on ButterBloom," Charles continued. "I asked Vivienne if you were really her sister, and she finally admitted it." I blinked, unsure of how to respond. She told me she didn't want to bring it up because, well, you didn't go to college, and you weren't really her type of crowd. Ah, there it was. I gave a quiet, dry smile. I figured as much. Charles looked a bit uncomfortable, then added, "But I just want to say, your desserts are incredible. They're not just food, they're art." His compliment surprised me. "Thank you," I said softly. He gave a small nod. I didn't want to come tonight. But now that I'm here, I'm glad I did. I tilted my head. Why? He looked at me with something that resembled genuine respect. Because the fact that you're standing here means you haven't completely given up on your family. Not yet. I didn't answer, but inside, I knew he had a point. If I had truly let them go, I wouldn't have shown up at all. She finally admitted it, Charles said with a quiet shrug. I see, I replied, managing a dry smile. I figured as much. I always suspected Vivienne told people she was an only child, especially since I wasn't invited to your wedding. Charles looked slightly embarrassed. Honestly, I was shocked when I saw the TV segment. You're clearly very successful. I gave a faint nod. My sister had been hiding me, pretending I didn't exist. Maybe, in her world, having a sister who baked for a living wasn't glamorous enough. Maybe I was inconvenient. Charles seemed to sense my thoughts. I didn't take it personally. I just want to say, your pastries are incredible. They're delicate, elegant like edible art. Thank you, I said softly. But I won't lie, I didn't want to come tonight. I figured, he chuckled gently. Still, the fact that you did, maybe it means you haven't given up on them completely. I hesitated. He wasn't wrong. If I had truly closed the door forever, I wouldn't be standing here at all. Let's just see how it goes, I replied with a small, unsure smile, my hand loosely gripping the dessert knife near the table. I'd grown up feeling like the odd piece in a perfect puzzle. But now, I didn't need to fit it built my own picture. Even if Vivienne hadn't changed, I had. That night, when I returned home, I exhaled deeply, as if releasing all the weight from the evening. Despite the lights, the champagne, and the applause, the distance between my family and me remained wide and complicated. A few days later, my phone buzzed. It was Vivienne. Eliza, she said cheerfully, I want to book a table at ButterBloom. It's for a friend's birthday. Can you save us a special spot? I blinked, caught off guard. The same sister who once pretended I didn't exist was now speaking to me like we were close. Still, something in her tone felt off, too bright, too strategic. I'm sorry, Vivienne, I replied calmly. We're fully booked that day. There was a pause. What? But we're family. Can't you make an exception? It's for someone really important. Our policy is to treat all guests equally, I explained gently but firmly. Her voice cooled. I see, well, maybe another day then. That other day never came. Instead, more calls followed. Each time, Vivienne had a new request reserving the entire caf, preparing exclusive dessert sets, accommodating influential wives of Charles's former business partners. Over and over, I told her no. I hadn't built ButterBloom to be used as a backdrop for social climbing. I poured everything into creating a space rooted in love, effort, and authenticity. I wouldn't twist that to please people who only saw value in appearances. And honestly, watching Vivienne try to leverage my success made me uncomfortable in a way I hadn't expected. She hadn't changed. She still saw me as someone useful, never someone worthy on her own. Then one night, long after the bakery had closed and the last tray had been washed, I saw Charles waiting quietly by the front door. I need to talk to you, he said, looking serious. Is something wrong? I asked. What do you really think of Vivienne? He asked. The question startled me. Why? Because, he said slowly, you know she's been using your bakery, right? She told me she was trying to support you as family, but I've watched her, and I can see she's just using ButterBloom to boost her own image. I lowered my eyes. That's how it's always been. She never believed in my dream. She dismissed me, avoided me. Now that I've made something of myself, She pretends we've always been close." Charles exhaled heavily. "That party your mother threw if you hadn't become successful, it never would have happened. I didn't know this side of Vivian when we got married. But meeting you, watching how you live your life, how you built this place with your own 2 hands, it opened my eyes." He looked at me, deeply serious now. "Eliza, I can't keep doing this." I blinked. "Are you thinking about divorce?" He nodded slowly. "I've already decided. If I hadn't met you, I don't think I ever would have questioned it. But seeing you follow your path without anyone's help, it made me realize how trapped I've felt. I want to live a life with meaning, not just appearances." His words stirred something unexpected inside me, relief. Like someone had finally said aloud what I'd been carrying in silence for years. Months passed. Then one morning, I heard the news. Charles and Vivienne's divorce was finalized. I wasn't surprised. Charles had warned me it was coming. From everything he'd shared, it had felt inevitable. But what did surprise me was what followed. Without Charles, Vivienne couldn't maintain the glamorous lifestyle she'd flaunted for years. She'd depended on his wealth, his status, his world. Now that it was gone, everything began to unravel. And with it, so did the illusion. Without Charles, Vivienne's carefully crafted life began to crumble. Her designer handbags, glamorous dinner parties, and luxury spa weekends, all of it had been built on his success. Once that foundation disappeared, so did the illusion of control. And it wasn't just her. My parents, who had also benefited from Charles' generosity, felt the impact immediately. The credit cards slowed, the weekend getaways stopped. Their world, once so comfortable, began to shrink rapidly. Then, one morning, my phone rang. It was Margaret, my mother. Her voice was softer than I remembered, almost timid. "Eliza, please, can we talk?" I hesitated, unsure if I was ready, but something inside me, curiosity, maybe told me to agree. We met at a small cafe on the edge of the city. It wasn't the kind of place they used to frequent. No chandeliers, no velvet chairs, just the smell of coffee, chipped ceramic mugs, and sunlight falling gently through the windows. When I walked in, I saw them sitting together, Margaret and Vivienne. I almost didn't recognize them. Gone were the tailored dresses and perfectly styled hair. They wore plain clothes now, their makeup minimal, their expressions weary. They looked human and humbled. "It's been a while," I said as I sat down. Neither of them met my eyes at first. They looked down, their faces flushed with something that resembled shame. "I'm really sorry," my mother said finally, her voice fragile. "When you told us you wanted to be a pastry chef, we didn't take it seriously. We judged you. But now we see how hard you've worked, what you've built, and we were wrong." Vivienne cleared her throat and added quietly, "I regret not supporting your dreams. I was cruel. I know that now. It's probably too late to ask for forgiveness, isn't it?" I studied their faces. "I'm not someone who forgives just because someone says sorry," I said honestly. Their shoulders sank, but I continued. "Still, I always hoped you'd understand. That one day you'd see that a person's worth isn't measured by their income or the people they know. It's measured by how they live, how they treat others, and whether they take pride in what they do." They listened without interrupting. "When I said I wanted to bake for a living, you called it unstable, useless. But the truth is, anyone who works hard and builds something with love deserves respect. People who only know how to live off others without giving anything back, maybe they're the ones who are truly poor." My mother nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. Vivienne bit her lip, her hands folded tightly on the table. Later, I heard that Vivian had taken a job as a waitress at a small diner near her apartment. It was a far cry from the world she once ruled with polished nails and flawless lipstick. At first, she was clumsy and unsure, but over time, she adjusted. She started showing up early. She learned how to connect with customers. And slowly, something changed in her. She began to hold her head high, not because of what she wore or who she married, but because she had finally earned her place. My mother, too, found work. Along with my stepfather, she began cleaning houses part-time, the same kind of work she used to turn her nose up at. I don't know if she liked it, but she did it. And that effort, it meant something. I hadn't forgiven them completely, not yet, but their willingness to change made my heart feel just a little lighter. Family bonds can snap in an instant, but mending them? That takes time. That takes work. I wasn't sure what the future held for us, but I began to believe it was possible to build something new if we were willing to try. A few months later, I walked into the diner where Vivian now worked. I sat in the back, unsure of how I'd feel seeing her in that space. But when she came out of the kitchen carrying 2 plates, I was taken aback. She looked different, not in a bad way. She moved with purpose, smiled genuinely. She spoke kindly to her customers, refilled coffee without being asked, and laughed when a child dropped a spoon. The proud, icy woman I once knew had melted away, and in her place stood someone real. Watching her like that made something stir in me, something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. That weekend we gathered again, just the 3 of us. No fancy setup, just a corner booth at the diner and 3 chipped plates. As we sat there, I looked at them both and spoke softly. "Next time, why don't you come to my place for dinner?" I offered. "You'll bake something, maybe a cake." There was a brief silence. Then my mother smiled. Vivienne looked stunned, but her eyes sparkled in a way I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't a grand gesture. It didn't erase the past. But in that small invitation, something shifted. It was my way of saying, I'm willing to try. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by lukewarm coffee and the smell of buttered toast, I realized something. We weren't a perfect family. We never would be. But we were finally becoming something real, something honest. And for the first time in a long while, that was enough.